Shortly thereafter, it appears that Voliva's Christian Catholic Church finally purchased their old building again, the Shiloh Tabernacle. Christian Assembly then had to find shelter where they could. During warm months, the old tent appears to have been used again, but the old ad building, third floor, perhaps a college building, and Elijah Hospice were all used to house the church at one time or the other, according to early members of the church, including Mrs. Hazel Lundy, daughter of Reverend Jesse Griswold. In any case, by 1910, the mayor of the city, E.N. Ritchie, who later became an early Pentecostal leader himself, learned that a lot was for sale at the corner of 27th Street and Escort. According to Mrs. Lundy, the mayor called the pastor and informed him that if they could raise the money for a down payment and get it to him before anyone else found out, they could have the lot. So Reverend Griswold, Brother Summers, Goody, Spicer, and one other board member raised the money and brought the lot for $350. Work was started on the basement and services were held there until the building was completed. Reverend Griswold appears to have been the pastor of the church at the time they purchased the first property. At least one more person, Reverend E.C. Mellon, pastored between 1910 and 1916, during which the spirit of revival seems to have remained. Newspaper articles told of great revival meetings, one lasting from 2 p.m. until midnight, but no mention of the pastor is recorded. By 1916, the first confirmed pastor is identified as Pastor John Cox in the October 1916 brochure from General Council, which lists newly credentialed ministers. Not much is known of him before this time, except that he was formally ordained with the Christian and Missionary Alliance. The very next year, Herbert H. Cox followed John Cox as pastor, and while under his ministry, the Christian Assembly first affiliated itself with the Assemblies of God, the letter of acceptance from Springfield being dated August 25, 1917. Harry Long followed next, pastoring from 1918 to 1922, followed in turn by W.M. Pollard until 1924. William E. Moody pastored next during the mid-20s. Shortly after he came to Christian Assembly, he led the church again to affiliate itself with the Assemblies of God. For some reason, after general headquarters were moved to Springfield, Christian Assembly's recognition in 1917 as an affiliated church appears to have been lost. In any case, a second letter from the General Council was generated, again recognizing Christian Assembly as an affiliated church in a letter dated October 27, 1924. After Moody, W.R. Williamson pastored. He later went on to be the district superintendent for Illinois. Then came William A. Cox, evidently the son of former pastor John Cox, followed by Ralph Riggs. Ralph Riggs only pastored for a few months or so over the summer of 1930 before he went on to teach college in Springfield, Missouri. He later went on to be the general superintendent of the Assemblies of God from 1953 to 1959. Alfred N. Trotter followed Riggs as pastor in the early 30s and then went on to be the assistant superintendent for the Illinois district from 1941 to 1943. Following Trotter, Finus Dake came to be the pastor from 1932 to 1938. Under Dake's leadership, the church bought Dowie's old mansion, Shiloh House, and converted it into Shiloh Bible School. Shiloh Bible School, later known as Great Lakes Bible Institute, sent a great many workers into full-time ministry. Dake taught at the school by day and then would stay up late into the evening at his church office working on his now famous Dake Annotated Study Bible. He was an able teacher and a fiery preacher who had a special gift of memorizing Scripture. Dr. Lester Summerall tells the story of Dake that he accepted a challenge for radio stunt where he sat behind a microphone in a store and recited the entire New Testament entirely from memory. Dake left behind a great legacy in the form of his annotated reference Bible and the Great Lakes Bible Institute, which eventually combined with Central Bible Institute in Springfield, Missouri. Theo Kessel, who also taught at the Bible school, followed Dake as pastor and then went on to serve as the secretary of the Illinois district in 1942. Kessel was followed by C.E. McCarroll, Percy King, and then by Everett Phillips in 1944. Phillips is listed as serving the district in the capacity of assistant superintendent in 1946 while still pastoring in Zion, and then went on to become the field director for Africa with the Department of Foreign Missions. In the early 50s, Paul B. Pyland served as pastor. He led the church in a building project expanding the church facilities to include a parsonage and additional Sunday school rooms. Thomas Russell Brubaker followed Pyland as pastor, serving from 1954 to 1963. Under Brubaker, the church grew to some 300 in Sunday school attendance. Michael Tabor took the reins in 1964. Under Tabor's leadership, the plans for the new building were established. Groundbreaking for the new facility on Bethel Boulevard commenced on Sunday, January 21st, 1968. Unfortunately, Pastor Tabor did not live to see the completion of his vision, for he died on August 12, 1968, during construction of the new building. Pastor William Douglas took over the pastorate following the death of Michael Tabor and continued to lead the congregation with the building project. Finally, on Sunday, March 2, 1969, the church made the move official with a march of the entire congregation from the old building on 27th and Escort to the new facility at 2929 Bethel Boulevard. Reverend Douglas pastored the church until 1975. Under his leadership, not only was the new building completed, but a Sunday school bus ministry was started, running as many as 7 buses. Sunday school records were shattered, with reports of 600 in attendance at one time. Other buildings in town had to be used to house the crowds. In fact, the highest Sunday school morning attendance average ever at Christian Assembly occurred under his leadership, averaging 460 in 1973. Tragedy struck on Sunday, March 1st, 1970. 4 leaders in the church were killed in a plane crash in Missouri while returning from a trip to scout out property for a new Royal Rangers youth camp. Those killed were David Gagnon, Robert Heikenfeld, Reverend Ross Tabor, assistant pastor and son of Michael Tabor, and Orville Winrich. All left young families. The Royal Rangers, already a significant program, went on to be one of the leading programs in the country, affecting the lives of countless young men for the cause of Christ. Following Pastor Douglas, Bud Orff came to pastor in 1975 to 76. Bud Orff was known as quite a singer while he was an evangelist and continued to serve the Lord by singing, even releasing a record during his time as pastor. Michael C. Osceola pastored Christian Assembly from 1976 to 1987. Under his leadership, the church produced a weekly television program called We're in Touch, which aired until 1988. Unfortunately, a land purchase for relocation was halted by the Wetlands Act. Raymond C. Perkins, Jr. pastored next and served until 1996, followed by Philip A. Mayer from 96 until September of 99. Pastor Mayer served to stabilize the church, and under his leadership, the church began to grow. Pastor Ken Savacco was hired under Phil as youth pastor, as was Children and Family Life pastor Roy Lovegrove, along with Sharon Lovegrove as minister of music. In October of 1999, Pastor Steve Goodner was brought on board and serves as senior pastor to the present. The church currently runs an average of 130 and offers a variety of ministries to all ages. Kings Cove Children's Church, Missionettes, Royal Rangers, Sunday School, and the Food Pantry and Clothing Ministry, as well as various community, all work together to make the body of believers known as Christian Assembly of God. God has given us a tremendous legacy of Christian service over the past 94 years. The gathering began on September 20th, 1906. Many have served the Lord with all their lives in ministry at home in Zion, general council, district, and general council levels, and as evangelists and missionaries around the world. But the command of the head of the church, Jesus Christ, is that once we have put our hand to the plow, that we should never look back, desiring to relive the accomplishments of days gone by. The cry of Christian Assembly as we embark on the beginning of the 21st century is that we desire a fresh outpouring of the Spirit of God for the challenges of the future. May we be found faithful when he comes.